It's great to have you here, Alan. All right, good.
All right, good.
Now I'm rolling.
Now you're going.
Okay.
Now you're going. It's good.
We're here at the Moto Talbott Museum in beautiful Carmel, California. We came here to talk to Rob because a few years ago, I guess, I don't know what year it was, maybe 6 years ago.
A long time ago.
I sold an MV Agusta on eBay.
Raid, yes.
Yeah, I ended up on the phone with this delightful guy who's super happy and telling me that he's building a museum. And because I come out here to the Quail every year, we ended up coming to see his place as he was building it, and I just love seeing the changes and the evolution in your place.
I had no idea I was starting another business, even though I've started a few of those.
Yeah.
But I love a challenge. I couldn't retire.
In the middle of transitioning out of the wine business,
Yeah.
and then what happened?
So I went back to one of my absolute former loves that I've been doing for over 50 years, riding motorcycles. And I thought that I could probably put together a museum that would be different than most, because I'm kind of a contrarian. And I thought how much fun to mix art with motorcycles and design. And I don't work for other people very well, so
Yeah, there's that.
I kind of thought I should be my own boss.
I don't work well for myself, so I understand. So how many bikes did you have then? Like
I had about 30,
30 bikes. Okay.
25 to 30, and I'd been recollecting since '01. We probably have, I've kind of stopped counting, it's around 200.
You should get rid of that T. I could do something with that rear brake. So that was what we built our first custom out of. It was a A50T Beto is what we called it, right?
Beto,
And
yeah.
because I love that rear drum brake, which is the lower model,
Yes.
because it didn't have the rear disc brake. But I actually love that.
Its mate is being restored right now, and you're gonna see this. Bobby's doing this right now.
All right, let's go talk to Bobby. You want to do that?
And sure.
So tell us about yourself.
Well, I've been in motorcycles all my life. Originally from Chicago, got recruited out here when a Ducati dealer opened up down in Los Angeles, and I was their mechanic / service writer for the first 5 years. And American Honda saw some of the bikes I was prepping for customers for the track use. Then they recruited me to go work on the race team. So I worked for HRC with the Camel, Smokin' Joe's bikes, and then moved over to the motocross division, and then went to Europe and worked for Rumi Honda over there, doing World Superbike. And then came back and opened my own dealership in Santa Barbara.
Oh, really?
Had that for 10 years, got sick of it, moved back to Italy, hung out, goofed off. And it was during that time, I happened to be back in California, met Rob, and he was looking at my friend's collection of bikes and thinking to gather a couple. And so we put 2 and 2 together. He said, hey, I need a curator. I said, I'm ready, let's go.
Rob already realized he wasn't retired anymore because he was working so
no
much.
Kidding.
Right? He needed a cohort of sorts.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, and he liked the fact that I knew a lot about the old bikes and I could fix any of them. So he liked
There's
that.
that. So I've noticed, you're a museum with a workshop,
Yep.
similar to Barber,
Yep.
right? Just
not as big.
slightly
A
different
little bit
scale.
smaller, but
better weather without the racetrack. That's all it is.
Exactly.
So you're doing a V7 Sport? it
Yeah,
looks
that
like?
arrived to us in 10 milk crates. And the owner had taken it apart maybe 10 years ago, and he just donated it to the museum, said, here you go.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
I'd restored a V7, oh my God, almost 20 years ago.
Really?
So I said, all right, no problem. And slowly I'm going through it and finding, I'm missing this. But it's come along fine, restored it, put it back to its original colors. And it should be a nice little bike.
these are going to be shown at the Corso on Saturday. Bobby is an expert on this bike. They both run. Bobby, tell us. They're
Both run immaculately.
incredible bikes.
I used to own an FSC and a vintage race one, but the beauty of this bike is it was ordered brand new by the president of the Laverta Club in London. And he ordered it, and they kept delaying his delivery. And we have letters that coming from Laverta saying, sorry for the late. Do you want something else? The guy's like, no, because this is the last version with the electronic ignition. And he got it, never rode it. The bike's only been ridden, other than me and Rob tearing around the neighborhood, but it was ridden by Piero Laverta on a demonstration lap in England. That's why it's got modern tires on it.
Are you saying this is factory paint?
This is 100% original from the factory.
Every nut and bolt.
And then the guy passed away. So he never really got to ride it. People come by and like, oh, this white is not correct. I'm like, dude, it's exactly
This is how they made it.
how it should be, And with the Laverta stickers, it's like whatever they had on hand. That
I was gonna say when they're restored, they look a whole lot nicer than the original.
So this is all
but
original.
knowing what it is, yeah.
Runs tip top.
Totally
Like I
original.
say, we've got great provenance on it, so it's beautiful. I mean, if you want to hear it, I can fire it up for you. I don't know if that'll kill your sound
Did
guy.
you want to hear it? Oh, of course he does. Yeah. Sounds a whole lot less like a race bike.
As it should be.
Right? Wow.
Yeah, we got it we got it from the guy. These bikes came with 2 sets of exhaust, the twin pipes out the back, and then the competition 2-in-1. Of course, that's what it's got on it now.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's always interesting to me how much this motor looks like the Honda Super Hawk. And I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
specifically,
Yeah,
from
no,
that,
it's-
but just next level, right?
Yeah, you go from this to this, and this is a motor. I mean, the MV Agusta.
You should probably start that one too. We're on this. That's great. That is
This thing
so good.
Smooth
Thank you,
compared to that one.
Bobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, much smoother.
That's basically a race bike with lights. This is a gentleman's sport touring bike.
Okay, there's a lot of weird eclectic bikes in here.
Ellen, there's the Raid I bought from you
Oh,
6,
that's
7
right.
years ago.
There it is.
Gorgeous bike. And it's incredible for MV Agusta, but being a contrarian, there's a local place called Baja Cantina. This rolled in 2001 with a crazy guy that drove it. And he pulled in, powered into the building with the front wheel, and did a burnout right at Baja Cantina with this bike. And it was like the ugliest outlaw bike I've ever seen. The taillights are from a 59 Cadillac, spikes, etc. This was built by the Hells Angels in either late 69 or 70. It took me 17 years to buy that bike,
Oh, really?
but I love this bike.
Because it kept coming back around? Or?
Well, I'd just see it and he wouldn't sell it. He had 200 bikes, Alan, and this was one of the last 5. When he divested himself, he kept it till the very end. He finally called me up one day and said, Rob, the Triumph is yours. Used to be a Bonneville.
Yeah, it's obvious. What
It could tell stories.
Talk to me about you. I want you to tell me about, like, how did you get into motorcycling?
Of course, my parents said that motorcycles are dangerous, and I said, of course they are. So you can't have a motorcycle. I said, that's fine. I won't have a motorcycle. But I had a friend that had a Honda Dream 250, and he let me ride it, but I couldn't bring it home. Then I went to college. I was 17, so I immediately bought a Honda 50 step through trail bike.
Cool guys, yeah.
And shortly after that, I bought a Bridgestone, and then I bought a Suzuki, and they were always enduros with high pipes. And then one of my friends who raced said, why don't you motocross with me? And I said, well, I don't know how to do that. So I started practicing. I practiced for 2 years at a place with mountains and dips and gullies, and I started to learn to slide, to jump, to do wheelies. And in late 68 or early 69, late 68, I started a motocross. And I started on a 125 Sachs with a leading link front end, and I loved that bike. And this was a really cool bike. And if you can see me on this exact bike in Canyon City near Florence, Pueblo, Colorado.
Is it
I raced this
same
bike.
model or this?
Same model. It's
Okay,
unfortunately
I was gonna
not
say,
exactly.
Oh, I had to ask.
Oh, I know. I wish it was.
You let it go. What
I
happened?
saw-
You just let it go like it was nothing?
Well, we always sold every bike we had to buy the next bike, and we weren't smart enough to keep them. So I couldn't get parts for it, so I raced it for a year, and then I moved on briefly to a 125 Yamaha, which was okay, and I could get parts. But my favorite bike was the 250 DT1, and I raced that for 4 years. And this is basically what I started with.
And so you were doing
I was doing enduro and hill climb and motocross.
scrambles.
And scrambles, whatever and trail riding.
Right.
The bike was a 69, so that would have been 1970.
Oh man! So I have some early memories because my parents had some Yamaha two-stroke dirt bikes.
Yes.
But we're talking like 79, 80, but I'm probably the same vintage, and I have the same bike at home on my landing, and the same color and everything.
It's
right?
a wonderful bike.
They're so cool. There's
So
nothing
we
like
bought
that.
it like this, Alan, and then we dumped the lights. The first race I did was a pipe plate over the front, and then eventually I stripped it down, got an expansion chamber, and that's the way it was set up for racing, and the Git kit.
Yeah.
And the 250 class was a really good class, but you could get parts for the Yamaha. 5 years of racing that DT, and I just beat it to death. I replaced one piston and a set of rings.
Really?
That's it.
See, I've killed a few top ends on Yamahas even. Oh, I love the Mako.
Yeah, the Mako is. So when I designed the museum, I said, I'm going to put the bikes in that beat me. Oh. The bikes that beat me were the Mako, the CZ, and the Husqvarna. And nobody could afford those generally.
They were the higher end ones?
They were
right?
$2,000. We were $500.
Oh, I didn't know.
We were $600. So everybody bought.
So like today, Husqvarna is still the higher end. It's the more expensive
it's
bike,
an
right?
incredible bike.
This is one of my favorites.
And this is my buried Beamer that was. We had a big fire called the Sobranis Fire, and it started in '08, and it burned from Big Sur up a canyon. This gentleman had this bike, and he had a little tractor, and he didn't want to lose it, so we dug a hole and buried it in a cliff. 30 days later, he dug it out, and this is now fondly called the buried Beamer. I rebuilt the motor. It's been on 3 Miles. I put about 3,500 miles on it. I love this. And I'll never wash it. It's never been washed.
I think you told me that one. I think you had it in the Quail one year, didn't you?
And I won't wash it.
Yeah.
But
geez.
there's crazy stuff here. No,
There is. Like, sorry, I'm looking
That's a
at
campaigner.
the indentations in that tank. Are so
She's
good.
done she's got her pad for your.
Oh, really? It
She's
straps down.
certified. She's raced at the Isle of Man. She's raced at the Ring.
125?
175.
175, okay.
Pasquale.
Yeah. In the in-between, yeah.
It's a real race bike.
Wow.
And the Rennsport, you know from the Porsche.
Yes.
It's
yeah.
the racing concept. This is
Oh.
1954.
Wow.
And Adler, of course, means eagle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a German bike. It's a Rennsport, an incredible race bike. And tell me where you think that motor, what do you think that motor looks like?
It's like a Yamaha.
Absolutely.
This is who copied the, or they copied
So they
Yamaha
copied this?
them. Yeah, yeah.
No, they copied. It took them about 5 years. I think it was the RD.
Yeah, yeah.
So they bought 2 of these. They took them to Japan, and Yamaha re-engineered this motor. But this was
Reverse
a great motor.
engineered it.
Reverse
and then
engineered.
reverse engineered it, and then re-engineered. This by far is easily your best motorcycle.
Oh, this is
Yeah,
so much
I mean,
fun.
This is. I remember I was there when you bought this bike.
Oh, you were.
Oh, I totally pointed at
I
you.
took so much grief. Nick Smith said he wouldn't even speak to me for a while.
So
He said, I'll have to sell this junk. This is an iteration of a German bike in 1937. It was copied by the Russians for the war, and then the Chinese got a hold of it, and they copied the Russians.
So it's like making a copy of a copy of a copy.
A
right?
copy.
Yeah.
The German bike was the best.
The Russian bike was second best, a far distant second best in my
Oh, and then it was a military bike. It had a sidecar. We didn't really know. The paint job is atrocious. We call it a Mongolian paint job. And Nick Smith said that the seat covers remind him of his London lunch pail
Dude, it's.
because he grew up in London.
Can you tell me how much you paid for this? I can't remember.
It was about 2,500.
You couldn't help yourself.
And I just couldn't. And Warren Barnes was there and Nick, and they called me immediately and started using profanity to me. They said, you can't do it. We had a pedestrian slicer, and for 2 or 3 years, we didn't know what to put on it. Finally, one day, Bobby says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get a Chinese menu, and we're going to pick one of the dinners. And we're going to put the dinner on this.
So what is the dinner?
Mushu pork.
I love it. It was missing that. You're right. It was missing mushu pork.
pork. So I waited another 2 years to get a Chinese family through, and it was a 3-generation family. And then all of a sudden, they all giggled, and they said, Mr. Talbott, what does this mean? And I said, I want you to tell me. I've waited 2 years
Someone to tell me.
for somebody who's Chinese to tell me in the dialect. And she said, mushu pork. And then It worked.
Did you tell him you did it on purpose?
I did it on
Okay,
purpose.
you let it off the hook for it.
So I waited 2 years, and then we all took pictures of it. Every single one of this group had to have a picture.
And that one, I remember this thing too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
I
is-
wanted it. It was so cheap.
Ace 100 Hodaka. This is new. You haven't seen this. Well, I pulled this out of a barn in Bradley. It's a Rudge from 32 with a JAP motor.
So I have one too.
Do you have one?
I bought from Decker.
Oh, from Decker.
That chrome one he had.
So everybody asks about this.
Yeah.
This is a massive savings to keep you up when you only turn left. No foot peg.
Yeah.
This actually helps the direction and helps the control, as you know.
It's so cool.
And so I'll never touch it.
That's my favorite.
And this is a great bike.
Of all the stuff that's in here.
And it'll never see a rag. When you turned left, this was your boot.
Yeah.
And as Alan knows, this is called a hot shoe, and it would get hot.
Exactly.
But there's no way you could keep your leg in one piece without one of these sliding. Because I've flat tracked without of these, just on a smaller bike, and my leg hurt for a week.
And your normal boot,
Not a slide.
a normal boot, it would just take
Oh,
it
it'd
off.
just
but
stick
yeah,
in.
But that would give you a lot more
Great.
time.
Hard-faced.
It's super cool. And the Ice Jawa is pretty.
The Ice
Talk about
Jawa,
dangerous looking.
it just came in from England.
Is that from the 80s? I'm guessing. Oh, 70. It's 1970. Wow.
It's a 70. I bought this in England for 2,400 pounds and shipped it over. And it's a serious racer. This is beautiful.
I bet it's really fast.
Well, they weighed nothing. They had almost 70 horsepower. The compression was 16 to 1 on these bikes. And they went like stink. So this is my favorite Triumph. It's a 69 Tiger. I like it because it doesn't vibrate as much as the Bonnie, and it's easier to tune. And I think it's faster. It's had some work done. It's a 700. But it's caught fire twice. Negative ground.
Oh, oops.
Lucas.
Oops. It's caught fire twice.
Whether he started it or not, I'm going to blame him. Mostly it started right up under here.
Oh, really?
And we were doing the ton. My son was on it coming out of the Legends in 03 in Half Moon Bay, and it caught fire. And he was going 100, and I had to pull up. I was riding my Aprilia. Luckily, I pulled up next to him, and I said,
Fire.
fire, smoke, flames. No flames, but smoke coming all the way out to the taillight.
It was not good.
We pulled over, and
That's what my Norton looks like.
she burned.
Yeah, she burned.
She burned every bit of it. But I
Really?
still love the bike.
And then you restored it.
No. I restored it wherever it was burned. I restored it and put a new harness in. She has the place of honor.
Super good.
Massimo did a great job.
One of the
and
prettiest bikes ever made, really.
It's called one of the prettiest bikes in the world. I bought this 2 days after he passed away.
Really?
He died on April 4th, and I bought it like on April 6th or 7th. Went to Ventura to find one because I said they're going to be unobtainium, and I'm really happy. So,
Great. Did you ride it?
oh yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah, all right, good.
I bought it from a kid that only took it around. He was a father of 3, and his buddy did track days on this bike, and he talked him into this bike as a first bike. Terrifying. He went around the block once, bought the leathers, and never touched it again.
Screw that. It's too scary.
So I didn't even know if it ran. So when I went down there, it was near Oxnard.
Yeah.
I took it out on the freeway, and it ran.
It was fast
It ran. So from dirt bikes, eventually, road bikes, of course. And then a lot of this is just, Alan, this is one of my,
I remember when you bought that.
remember that. I just fell in love with
I
it.
loved it. I thought it was so clean.
I probably paid a little too much, but
What's funny
Warren
about-
Barnes had it in his office. He said, out of 400 bikes, he said that was his favorite
Really?
from Schumacher.
I just remember we were looking at it,
Yeah.
and I didn't know who was bidding. I think I bid a little bit at the beginning, just because I wanted to get the feeling of what it would be like to own it.
Isn't it
And then I didn't know who had bought it until later. I figured it was you.
I was 35 or so. It went. This came out of a field
Oh, really?
in Grants Pass, Oregon. It had been sitting outside, completely rotten. You saw it on the Instagram with a rotten seat. Bobby did this. It took a year because Spanish parts are hard to find.
Like this.
We had to fabricate a few things,
Really?
but the sheet metal is all original. And it's a little tiny cafe racer, 50cc. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, the Moto Marini had one that was similar to this. They put like Dennis the Menace on it. I've got one. In fact, you need it. It's for sale. I need it. It's fully restored.
Look at the tank.
Yeah, yeah.
And look at the sandcast.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, we all know about sandcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love sandcast.
Even the carburetor the float pole. It's really cool.
And I have wonderful friends in the race world. Wayne from a really long time. Kenny, he was at the party. Junior, another Kenny Senior, his racing effort, the Proton. We have a Nicky Hayden bike that just came in with his leathers, which is wonderful. And they come and go. It took 3 years to build this museum, and it was more work than I anticipated. So these are amazing because they didn't make very many of them. They're saying maybe 200, but 3 different sizes. And this one you'll never see. That's the 12-inch. It's a shifter MV with a Franco Marini 50cc 49. It shifts. It's a 4-speed.
Weird.
And supposedly Magni had from the factory 22 of these made for a young riders race group. So this is the rarest in the world.
Talk about flagrant spending. When
22.
You can spend that kind of money just to get 22 made.
20 guys.
Yeah.
And then there's the 10-inch and then the 8-inch, which I bought in London at a used car lot and shipped over. He didn't know what he had.
Didn't care.
I had to paint the fairing because it was painted white. So I've got all 3. We're the only museum in the world with all 3 of these minis.
Oh, really?
The 8, 10, and the 12.
That's great.
That's
It's
the kind of
super
wacky
cool.
stuff I do.
It's super cool. I really like that,
Oh,
of course.
I know,
Right? The tank on that, and then, of course, the cam stack on this Benelli.
Yeah, the cam stack on the Benelli.
Right, the way that's set up, that gear stack.
This bike for me is jewelry. The jewelry that I love. Look at the pipe, and this is my favorite small bike in the museum, period. It's got the chin cut out, tiny guy. Talk about jockeys.
You know, I had an Islo.
They're rare.
Same bike, just, I thought it was the same one when I came in. It was a little bit different.
I bought this at auction, but they only made 3 of these.
Really?
They're all Italian components.
Right.
And they made it for the Milano-Toronto, and that year they stopped.
They only made 3, and I've had one, and you had one?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this isn't the same bike I have, but it's the same, all the same stuff. And then maybe someone faked.
Well, this was made to do the Giro, the Italian Giro. And suppose there are only 3 of these.
Yeah, super cool.
This is a mate to the little orange one, 75cc. It's so beautiful. Pressed steel frame. And the old racers had a full fender. Now you realize you had to be in a tuck the whole time because you didn't have any horsepower.
Right. It's all about wind resistance.
So you were up against the bum stop.
They're just so pretty. The way all the little pieces come together.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful?
Yeah,
It's jewelry, Alan. Yeah. Everybody loves Ducatis. We do. I have 3 of them. They're all red.
The 60 Sport.
Here's a 60. These are really rare.
I've never even seen one, to be honest.
It's in 1950. So it's the second bike they made. The first one was the Cucciello.
Okay.
And then they made the 50. I mean, this is so rare. This had just won at the LeMay, and I bought it at Bonham's. I had Nick buy it for me because I had to leave. And I've never regretted it.
Even this.
It's just,
that font.
this is 1950.
Something no one would ever see.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Isn't that beautiful?
so good. Well, man, I'm so proud of what you've done.
It's here.
I mean it. I'm so glad that it's gonna stay.
It's here.
Right.
It's going to stay.
How many more bikes are you gonna buy?
I have to sell a bike to put a bike in.
Is that where you are right now?
I'm jammed.
That's it.
And the hardest thing is they're like my children. If I come through and say, find one I want to sell, it's like,
No.
I love them all.
Yeah, you don't want to let one go.
I've got handmade bikes, sandcast bikes, factory bikes that should have been crushed that weren't. I mean, there's some really rare bikes here. It's an art gallery. It really is to me. That's what I get to do, share with everybody that loves
This
bikes.
is your new job.
And it's really neat to share this.
I was just gonna say thank you for not only sharing it with us, but sharing it with everyone that comes through.
People say that so many of these bikes would be locked up behind locked doors and no one would ever see them.
true.
And they thank me for allowing this incredible display to be enjoyed publicly. Why not?
The satisfying thing for me now, Rob, is having people tell me about you as though I don't know you. They go, have you heard about this Rob Talbott guy? Or they just say the Talbott thing. Have you heard about this? It's like, yes, I know.
Some of it's true.
Yeah, no, they're really proud of it, and that it just seems weird and quirky for it to exist here. But I actually think it's a logical place for this to be.
Why not? In Monterey,
Yeah, this is the best, some of the best riding in the country. in
out
my
the
opinion.
valley, the grade.
So good.
Our races, we're getting our races back again.
Laguna's
think-
just up the street.
And
Well, that's
we
where
have-
we're headed to next.
Okay, fabulous. You're going to have fun.
Yeah, we're going to the racetrack. Go see some cars. The stupid
that's-
four-wheelers.
Yeah, four-wheelers. That's okay. Watch
Thanks
them.
again, man. I really appreciate
You're welcome.
it. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Alan.
All right, we'll be back next
Fabulous.
year.
Come back next year.